Hi, I'm Oddme. I'm with my special guest, Anker. And during the day, he's a social worker, but by night, he is a singer-songwriter, musician. And we have his dog right here, Carmela. It is January 1st, 2025,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, sir.
Happy New Year. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how successful you became from being just a normal musician going to open mics, and then became a host in certain open mics. Then right after that, next level, hey, let me make a side hustle business out of it,
Yeah.
and becoming a paid musician. And I think that people who, like me and other musicians, really didn't have that opportunity, or they're looking to, go to the next level if they need some side money. So perhaps you can share some of your views of how you became, what did you do? So we're going to go from stage 1 to stage 2, how you started acclimating or, getting opportunities. You've done something that perhaps people can get some ideas from.
Yeah.
So from the beginning, I know you were a host.
Yeah, well, going to open mics and just stumbling through 2 or 3 songs and not really knowing how to perform and apologizing for mistakes and fulfilling all of those terrible cliches that happen when you're a newbie. And then it was, rather than going to the open mics, hosting the open mic that you once attended because you became a regular.
Right.
And that's essentially what happens, even with venues, is that you kind of show up and do like a little showcase, and then they like you and they pull you in. I know there was some successes with even being an opening act for some like bigger names. It's because they kind of just trust you, and that's what it is, and that's how things kind of fulfill.
But the main thing was that covers are the initial to get in. Isn't it true?
For a lot of these venues now, for me right now, the success that I'm having is playing at wineries, breweries, distilleries, restaurants, up and down like this tri-state area. They want you to play other people's music because they want you to do something that's familiar to their customers. But where I kind of find some comfort and kind of feel where I'm a little more original is that a lot of times I probably about 25% of my set tends to be my original material because it's been crowd tested over the last 15, 20 years of doing this.
Okay.
I know certain songs are either too quiet or too slow and they're not going to work for a winery, distillery, or a bar. But then there's other stuff where it's just going to sound like maybe an obscure track from fill in the blank with a famous artist. So and then you kind of just pick up on what's going to work and what's not going to work.
So, but what is the engagement now? Becoming a host, there was certain ways you found out on the internet these opportunities. You wrote an email. There's any basic format that you developed or style where you did get a good amount of, I guess, customers?
I'm in a constant hustle for venues. I mean, because essentially, despite the success that I've had as a musician, there's really only 15 venues that I'm constantly going back to. And when one falls off, another 2 or 3 come in. So it's this constant shuffling, of almost like having a caseload. when something either just burns out or places close too. I mean, that's a whole other conversation about businesses that thrive or don't thrive. And but to do that, it's a matter of keeping track of the venues in your own head.
But how did you find out and say it wasn't?
Okay, she's done. Bye bye.
Carmela's done. See you later, buddy.
So
she got bored for the interview.
But in finding venues, you just kind of first
See,
of all,
that's what we're looking at is how you're selling yourself.
So what you can do is to find venues in and of themselves. Like, well, if you are going to call or make a contact, where do you find these places? So you go to musicians that are 1 or 2 steps above you.
Okay.
People that you look up to and see where they're playing. Go to their websites and just write down everything that they're doing.
Now, do you hear that, folks? That look at the local musicians and look at the local bars or wineries.
As much as it's a help for one's followers or fans to go to my website, ankermusic.com, and see that where I'm playing and where I've been. My website is constantly being updated and it flows beautifully. I mean, you can go to my gig schedule, and of course it's going to have all the gigs that are coming up, But if you scroll down, it goes back to, I think, 2011 or 2012. So you could see all the venues that I've ever played. Some don't exist anymore, and some are thriving, or some have shifted their style. But it's important that you, if you want to play in places, you just got send out a barrage of emails and phone calls, and you will, the vast majority of the stuff is going to be no's, or just absolutely nothing. So you have to kind of keep track of that stuff.
So the rejection is really high.
Big time.
In the beginning.
Yeah, I would say, let's just come up with some safe but realistic numbers that if you send out 100 emails, which is a realistic number, over the course of maybe a weekend or two, you might get about a 10% return, replies, and maybe 2 to 3 gigs.
Yeah, I can see that. That seems to be pretty good.
But
you're using a list though. You gave me, what is that, indie something?
Yeah, the indie, well, in addition to just driving around and having friends that want me to play in certain places, and even like right now up in the Orange County, Sullivan County, New York area.
Which is a distance from where you live.
Which is 2 hours away.
Okay.
You know, but that's where I'm originally from, and I still have a lot of friends up there. So they're like, "Well, call this place, call this brewery, call this distillery."
So they're basically, you're networking from the locals.
Yeah.
So they know their community better than you because you haven't been there for a long time. So they're kind of saying, "Why don't, like you said, call?" So that's another thing: is network with the people you know in the areas that you're not familiar with. Perhaps you might have a friend.
And the funny thing is that I am very familiar with that Orange County area, but the funny thing is though is that, although I lived there for decades, I have not lived there in decades. So the venues that I'm playing, there's a handful that never existed when I was up there, and then there's a handful that did, and it's kind of weird now to go back. Like there's a place in Goshen, New York, where it's like I used to walk past it all the time. Back when I was a kid, and like who knew I was going to end up playing music there for and it was one of those wild and crazy bars. And
now talking about
I'm adding to that wild and crazy vibe now.
Now with the songs that you have in your repertoire, I know that you have an iPad, tons of shit in there. How many songs do you feel that you have?
Oh, I know for a fact.
You started from the beginning. Let's start from your first performance.
Yeah, and the funny thing is...
What was the repertoire? I think it was 25 or 30.
Yeah, there was like 20 or 25 songs. Most of them were weak originals. And then you kind of throw on some of the tired old cover songs.
Yeah.
And then after a while, like today, I'm up to about 450.
And how long have you been doing this, sir?
Easily 15 years.
Okay. And how long have you been doing the side hustle business, the gig work? The
gig work is, I think, being as a professional paid musician is about 10 years.
So it's been a decade from starting from 25 songs in your batch of tunes. Now you're up to 400. Now,
because over those years, if you think about it, a person has to improve. You would hope that they do, and I know certainly that I have. I know that I'm singing stuff, whether it's Bon Jovi or even like Whitesnake covers or Tina Turner or Miley Cyrus. There are songs that I would have tried. I remember specifically trying to sing certain songs years ago, and it was completely out of reach.
Wow.
And then now it's like I'm just blasting through.
Well, you've been doing it for so long, then eventually you get used to now.
Well, there's voice exercises. We're blessed with having the internet. And I sat through many YouTube lessons on how to improve your posture, your voice, your mouth positions, all of that kind of stuff. So I can do songs like "Living on a Prayer" and "It's My Life" by Bon Jovi, slightly modified. I'm not talking like I'm dropping it 6 steps, but it's still within the same key. But maybe you kind of tweak the melody line a little bit, but you keep the melody, and you're still singing the high notes, and you're still keeping the song recognizable without having to completely rewrite it and turn it into something that it's not.
Anker, what inspired you to pick up the lovely guitar? What made you feel and say, I want to write, I want to sing, and I want to perform?
It was growing up and going to concert after concert and being the classic music addict.
Were you a person that sat by the radio, had a cassette tape, and recording a playlist? Now people who do Spotify playlists, we're making playlists by listening to the radio. This is WPLJ, there's a new song from Survivor.
Yeah.
I'm the Tiger! Like, fuck!
Yeah, always having a blank 60-minute cassette in the deck.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is that when you listen to that much and you see that much,
yeah,
you absorb it, and it has to come out in some way.
No.
And there were no other life distractions. Like I'm married into kind of like a theatrical relationship. There's no kids, there's no noise, there's no drama, there's flexible work schedules and things like that. So it's allowed me to pursue the passion. So
you're saying that of your lifestyle right now gave you this opportunity, with your work also is more flexible of where you're located and whatnot, gave you that lifestyle where it gave you much more.
Yeah, and there's a matter of something to prove too. I mean, it's kind of funny too, because over the years, in different relationships and everything, it's very odd that people didn't take my interest in music seriously.
Yeah.
Or they didn't take abilities seriously.
Well, I was in the same boat, sir. So you're preaching to the choir.
And then all of a sudden, you're in a relationship that kind of supports it, and it does nothing but thrive. And it's kind of funny because whether it's through Facebook or various social medias, you can still see that people are following you who you knew a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it's like, and then in your own brain, you kind of have an ego moment, but you just have to check yourself, because that's when you make a mistake.
Right.
Those ego moments are just for yourself, because
Well, again, it's when you said that you were an avid music lover, and I know you can share it to the folks, your favorite artist of all time.
My Lord and Savior, David Bowie.
Lord and Savior, David Bowie. And I gotta tell you, your music itself has no reflection at all that I've noticed, because you're more into the singer-songwriter, folk rock sound versus alternative. I mean, David Bowie is an icon, okay? You hear his records, it's like fucking one record to the other. It's like, apple and oranges, basically, right? So he was much more diversified. He liked to experiment in all different type of genres.
And let me jump in with that though.
And a signature voice too.
Yeah, the funny thing with that though is that having had the opportunity for one brief second, the very last single that I did a couple of years ago, Alone in the Dark, put me right in the beginning of what could have been, or what might be, that transition from going from like a more acoustic bass, because with the albums that I've released, we're talking, there's 4 albums and 3 singles that have been released over the last 10 years. And there's no intentions at this point to record again, but you never know. I'll never say never. But with that last single, Alone in the Dark, it did not resemble anything that I had ever done before. And it was definitely going to go in the direction of a modern rock.
You feel it?
Bowie, there was a heavy influence from Bowie. There was a heavy influence from bands like AWOL Nation, and stuff that would be a little more produced, rather than just sort of the bar band thing where it's blatantly obvious it's a guitar, bass, drum, and the lead vocal.
Right.
That's sort of a formula. but even in the studio, it was never just a lot of noodling. There was a lot of production that we did.
Yeah.
And that was something that I always wanted that in my music. I wanted everything to have a purpose.
Well, you worked with 3 different engineers/producers. You had, 4, excuse me. Dan Skye.
Yep.
Brandon Broderick.
Dr. Louis DeLeese.
Dr. Louis DeLeese.
And then Amore Perez.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would say they're all different to their own style.
And Amore, the last one that did Alone in the Dark, really took it up to the next level. And,
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's many excuses why that didn't go forward, because That single came out in February or March of 2020. Timeline sucks, folks. And the funny thing is that up until that very instance, it was a matter of focusing more on the original material and then doing the covers on the side. And now it's just completely flipped. After COVID, you couldn't even go out to your driveway and play music without getting in trouble or without people making fun of you or whatever. So that's one of the reasons why at this point, it's like over these last couple of years post-COVID, I was like, well, okay, you're going to give me attention, you're going to pay, you're going to pay me to play, you're going to respect the fact that I'm a musician, that you're going to hire me in upstate New York, and you're going to let me go down to Cape May for 2 nights. Okay, I'll play for 5 hours and work in 10 of my own.
So the shortest time you ever played that you got paid for was how long? And the longest. So just give me the shortest.
The shortest paid, but that's the most important. The shortest paid gig, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was that was actually several years ago. The New Jersey had celebrated their birthday, and I was asked through networking and through a connection.
Sure.
I was asked to play at the Capitol Center in Trenton.
Okay.
I think I played for 45 minutes.
And what's the longest set ever?
Longest set was 6 hours.
6 hours.
6 hours at a winery, and it was actually far less than that 45-minute gig in Trenton.
So when you do winery, is it mostly long sets?
The average hire anywhere is 3.
Okay.
3 hours.
So minimum 3 hours. So
if
people
anybody's
So if
anybody's interested, you need to make sure that you got at least. I mean, if you're going to really be a cliche about it, you're going to take your breaks every 45 minutes, and it's going to.
How many songs?
The break is going to be 10 minutes. You might want to have at least 30 to 40 songs under your belt. No repeats. Have a couple of alternates just in case. That's what I'm saying. 30 to 40.
Yeah.
You know, and also let's not forget about have a birthday song, have a holiday song. You know, and over the years, I was like, well, I'm getting sick of singing the traditional happy birthday song. So I wrote my own, and there's a couple of other little goofy happy birthday songs that I do that you don't have to sit through the whole happy birthday to you.
Yeah.
That gets a little silly after a while, but especially if you're playing it in a bar and people are drinking, it's kind of a buzzkill to have to go through that funeral dirge like birthday song.
So in summary, we can say that start out using something like Indie Bible. I think
Indie Bible is very
helpful.
Bible, and let me talk about Indie Bible. Indie Bible is a fantastic compilation of venues that just exist.
Yeah.
And
this is for people who have no idea. You know, they do covers like you. They have a lot of songs that they do, and like, you know what? I want to get paid. So these are for people.
You need to also understand that it's not just good. Go grab your 30 or 40 songs, but do you play them well? Yeah. Even if you don't have them memorized, we are cursed now, such as myself, that I am sort of dependent in a way where I don't think I could do 6 hours or 3 hours without the iPad in front of me. I need the cheat.
Yeah. Well, you're not the only one. There's plenty of people I've seen perform, and majority of them use their cheating sheets, you know, for.
But that's also how you kind of.
And it's not only them. I've seen major stars have teleprompters fucking sitting right there on the stage. You're not able to see it, but they're looking at it. Do you think they know their catalog? It's like someone like Metallica or any other, you know,
and that's also how you
Bruce Springsteen and all those people.
And that's also how you're able to handle certain things. Like with a repertoire now of 450 songs, I do announce that I take requests.
Yeah.
Please go to my website. All the songs are listed on the website.
Yeah.
So don't just start, you know, randomly shouting out that you want me to cover Iron Maiden. Go to the website, you'll see that, there is no Iron Maiden on there, but there's a whole lot of other stuff. You know, so
what is the biggest request, Anker? So all these shows that you did, and you say, oh man, I gotta play this song over and over again.
Margaritaville tends to be a famous one.
What is it called now?
Margaritaville from Jimmy Buffett.
That's
a popular one.
What else is the other one? I don't.
Yeah, I mean, there's some of the
Jimmy Buffett.
And that's actually something that's funny. There's a venue right here in town that when I go in, there's a guy that's like, no Doobie Brothers, no Oasis, you know, and it's like, and I was like, I don't play any of those. Some of the things that when they pop up, like Country Roads, Wagon Wheel. Wagon Wheel, I actually don't even know how to play, and I'm like, no, I don't even know that one. But that pops up a lot.
So these are pretty generic.
Yeah, and the funny thing
a lot
is,
of people.
again, the other decision that I made is that I wasn't going to go to the cliche cover songs like Wonderwall, Wagon Wheel. I play Margaritaville. I wish I could come up with more of the cliche cover songs, but they are definitely a Brown Eyed Girl. Not that they're bad. I mean, these are legendary songs. But like,
how about Don McLean, American Pie?
American Pie, every singer-songwriter wants to cover that one. Oh, if you're a female, every female that wants to be a rock guitarist has to play Me and Bobby McGee. But do you really?
How about Cranberries, Zombies? No?
That's a great song. I mean,
I hear that constantly.
Yeah, I didn't realize that Zombie itself was a sort of
It's
a
a
cliche
shame of
cover.
it song.
Yeah, but my repertoire goes back from the 20s to from the 20s to the 20s.
Yeah.
Because I do. I mean, there's very current stuff like Harry Styles and Miley Cyrus, and then I'm doing stuff from the old blues bands and things like that. And the funny thing is that what you realize that when you think you're covering Led Zeppelin or Eric Clapton, a song from the 70s, it goes back even further to the 30s. So without even realizing it, you think you're playing a classic rock song, and you're actually playing a classic blues song. I mean, that's half of Led Zeppelin's.
How about Def Leppard? I know that Pour You Sugar.
I played Hysteria in an acoustic version.
Oh, you
a
do?
couple of times. Yeah, it's stuff.
You did play Hysteria.
Yeah, at one point I actually had the riff down, but then I forgot it, because then I ended up just doing a modified version of the chords, and it still came out pretty good. That one, I had it on my website. I forgot that I had it there. Someone requested it, and they caught me. And I was like, oh, I forgot how to play it. And it's so embarrassing when there's actually like guitar parts that you have to know, because it's just you, man. And that people have to understand that when it's just you on stage, you can't fake your way through that. So there needs to be a confidence. In addition to those 30 or 40 songs that you need to be able to play, you need to also understand that, present them in an engaging way. That's one of the reasons why it's not just me and the guitar on stage. I have like a pedal board that has background vocals and harmony, and there's a drum machine, and I do elementary looping just so that way I can solo.
So you spend thousands and thousands of dollars on your.
And it's been paid off.
So you're selling but I'm just saying in general, the winery, all these places that you play, they don't have their equipment. They expect you to bring your equipment.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's why we gotta listen, folks. You gotta fucking bring your own equipment. I don't care what equipment it is. They don't have it.
And make sure if you're going to bring your own equipment that you know how to use it and that you sound good through it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of acoustic guitars. I don't care what brand you're playing, whether it's this is just a pure acoustic guitar. This is a Martin, but it's nearly like $2,600. But if you put a microphone system in here, it could sound like crap. Make sure it sounds good, and you need EQ pedals. You need to know what your bass and your treble are doing. Otherwise, you don't want to be for 3 hours listening to this plinky, trebly guitar mess, especially if you're just strumming violently. And that's the other thing. Control your guitar playing. Don't just wail away on the strings. A lot of times, as we heard back in the open mic days, people are just wailing away on their guitar and they're not giving any nuance.
Well, they're also new to it, so I mean, we have to work.
Yeah.
And that just seeing where you came from over 10 years ago and where you're now, it's amazing, because regardless what fucking people comment or say, you never stop and say, oh no, I'm going to stop because they said something about me. No, you continue regardless.
Yeah.
And that's the adversity that people should realize, is that you gotta fumble and get up. You gotta fumble, get up. Play the song.
And as much as we're talking about music and playing and building a repertoire and having equipment that makes you sound good, there's certain business parts that you have to do. You have to keep track of these venues. And there's nothing wrong with sending it, especially when you don't really have a relationship with a venue and you're hoping they invite you back to play. Thank you notes.
Yeah.
Every
There you go.
Every Christmas I send out well over 100 Christmas cards. It's during the year with all the photographs that get taken of me, I always try to grab one.
Yeah.
Just like any other family would. They say, "Oh, that's the Christmas card," and you just kind of keep it waiting in the wings. And right around Thanksgiving,
That's another thing. So basically, you also keep, I think, a notepad of everything, right? The mileage. So now tax time is coming.
Oh, yeah.
You can write all this off. So look, this guy didn't start from anywhere. He was also just a normal guy, and with your, I guess, persistence and dedication of getting this, and from there, boom, boom, you started making relationships. You showed referrals to people. So look, I performed here and here. It's not like you're making this shit up.
And then over the years, I mean, you kind of,
Yeah.
and every once in a while, it's nice to have a relationship. There are certain venues right now, and I know for one, there's one in East Amwell, New Jersey. I'm going to be there once a month this year.
Good.
Because over the years, they see that, well, they also gave me an opportunity a couple of years back. Daryl McDaniels from Run DMC.
Yeah, there you go. Played one of the guys from Run DMC.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
he released his own line of wines at this winery.
Sure, but still, you got to see the play.
Yeah, and so he did the speaking engagement and everything, and they had me play for an hour before him. So that's an opening act for a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame act. And then there's another smaller venues in the area, like had me open for this guitar player from this classic legendary 60s band called Vanilla Fudge.
Right.
And that was a Vinnie Martell gig that out of nowhere they just contacted me like, can you do a 30-minute opening set? And those are the ones that you don't get paid for.
Yeah.
But the thing is though, is that it's been 10 years, and when people see that you've opened for Vinnie Martell,
Sure.
or a Hall of Famer from 2 or 3 years back, or this like classic alternative 80s band called the Bongos, and you open for the lead singer, well, okay, then you've got some clout. You're not just a hobbyist.
Right, yeah.
And that's something that you really want to make sure. Are you seriously going out there to play music because you're a musician, or do you just want to kind of goof around and have people sing along with Brown Eyed Girl?